This episode of the Busted Wide Open podcast is brought to you by Blueberry. Blueberry offers the best media hosting, accurate listening stats, and their all-new PowerPress Deluxe sites, a no-setup WordPress website for your podcast with all of the necessary links to share your show with the world built right in. If you currently produce a podcast and are looking for a better media host or looking to start a new one from scratch, head over to orbitaljigsaw.com/BWO and sign up for the best media hosting and a PowerPress Deluxe site to get your first month absolutely free. That's orbitaljigsaw.com/BWO, or just use the promo code BWO at checkout for your first month free. And with that said, enjoy the show.
¿Qué tal, amigos? Les habla el cero miedo de la lucha libre, Pentagon Junior, para mandar un saludo a todos mis amigos de este podcast. Y ya saben, puro cero miedo.
You're listening to the Busted Wide Open podcast, dropping the elbow on the hottest topics in sports entertainment and the world of professional wrestling. With your hosts, Nick Howell and Sir Ian Dangerous. Coming to you from the Orbital Jigsaw Network Arena in sunny Southern California. Welcome back to the Patron Mailbag series right here on YouTube with the Busted Wide Open podcast. My name is Nick Howell.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous, and welcome everybody to listening to this show where we answer the questions that our patrons have sent us. And if you would like to send us a question to be answered on this show, then all you have to do is go to patreon.com/BWO and sign up to be one of our wonderful, lovely, beautiful, gorgeous, gracious patrons that contribute to us and help us to do this show that we love to do so very much. And Nick, I'm always excited to do this show because I love answering these questions. This is always a ton of fun.
We always have. We've always loved doing the listener questions as part of the show, going into 3 years now of the Busted Wide Open podcast. And we wanted to take, last month we made the decision to strategically take this out so that we could spend more time on it. That is what the Patron Mailbag is all about.
Strategery.
It's maturation. Strategery.
Strategery.
Yes, the ability for us to spend more time and give a little bit more concentration on these than some of the flippant answers that we might have given in the past because we were in a rush at the end of the show. No, let's dedicate something for our patrons, for all of their support over the years of this show, and make sure that we give them time and the ability to ask questions. If you guys want to get in on some of that, patreon.com/BWO. All you need is that $5 tier, and you can get your questions in every single week, 4 to 5 times per month, depending on how the calendar lines up, all that good stuff. You also get access to show notes. At the $10 tier, you can get bonus episodes every month, all kinds of stuff. Sweet swag, Skype calls. Some of you are getting to take advantage of those.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for all of your support, patrons. This series is for you, and we're happy to have everybody else come and hang out with us and listen to this as well. But the only way to get your questions in is to be a patron. So my name is Nick Howell. Thank you very much for joining us. Ian, how do we get started today? Do we just get right into this with our questions?
Let's just jump right in the deep end and do this.
All right. Well, we're going to kick things off with our newest patron, Brandon. Brandon asked, do you think adding MJF and Wardlow to the inner circle is making it too big for a faction where I think a faction should only max have 5 people? Well, that's kind of an arbitrary number. Where's the maximum of 5 people coming from? Because DX had upwards of 6 at one point, didn't they?
Well, there's always the 5-person rule. Is you've got the mid-size main guy who would be like your champ, right? Singles wrestler. And then you've got your tag team. Then you have your cruiserweight and you have your bruiser. That's where you get the 5 from. So actually the 5 number makes a ton of sense. And that is kind of like, to me, that is the magic number for a faction as well, because you can have someone who's doing a little bit of everything, right? It's the Ginyu Force number. So it's, 5 makes sense, but you can have more than 5 people and still have a lot of fun with the faction, I think. Just look at New Japan, where you can have just, an army, and it's a lot of fun. The corporation back in the day was like a grip of people, and it was fun as hell. Especially when you have kind of the more tertiary members on the outside kind of wanting to become more important in the faction, then it becomes actually like a hierarchy, and you can have storylines within the faction itself, and that can be a lot of fun.
Yeah. The faction breaking down, or it having inner turmoil and things like that.
But if you want to have a unified faction, I think 5 is a really strong number. But I agree with him here. Bigger than that, it's going to get a little bit bloated, the Inner Circle. And I think that adding MJF and Wardlow is going to make it, it's going to make it overpowered. It's going to make it bloated. I agree. It would make it too big, which is why I think they intentionally did not have them join the Inner Circle. There was the hug between MJF and Jericho where it seemed like they were on the same page.
Mostly over their hatred of Cody.
Exactly. That's kind of where I was going with that, is it wasn't really like a welcome to the Inner Circle thing so much as it was Cody's a dick. So yeah,
it wasn't like trying to get Roddy to put the undisputed armband on. You know, it wasn't that on the nose. There was this. They left it percolating a little bit, and
right.
We'll see where it goes.
Yeah. So I don't think it's doom and gloom yet. It's not.
Yeah.
They haven't overstacked the Inner Circle yet. And frankly, if they do, I think there's a way for them to tell that story where you can have dissension within the group. Because I think, again, once you get beyond a certain point, then they get to the point where you can start telling stories within the faction. So you could actually have some very entertaining storylines happen within the Inner Circle. MJF trying to become the new leader and Jericho trying to maintain control. You could actually have some very interesting storylines with that, where I don't think that would necessarily be a negative thing if it got that big. So
no. Yeah. I'm hoping it turns into more something like a Shawn Michaels and Diesel kind of thing. You know, I want Wardlow to be this enforcer that supports MJF's singles competition.
Right.
I don't necessarily want them to be in the Inner Circle per se.
Yeah, I don't either, but I'm saying if they do join the Inner Circle, if they do make that part of the storyline, I think there's a way to tell that story that would be interesting. So
Agreed. Thank you very much, Brandon. Welcome to the Phenomenal Ones. Thank you for your patronage very, very much. Next up, we've got Will. Will asks, I only just started watching New Japan for the G1 earlier this year.
Yeah.
Mostly thanks to you guys. Thank you, Will. Thank you. Glad to have you on the New Japan train. It took me a while, too, for the record, but I've been on the train for a couple years now, thanks to Sir Ian Dangerous. He says, but he hasn't really watched much since the G1. The site is weird to navigate, and some things show up on a delay. Can we get a brief idiot's guide for what to go watch that's happened since the G1?
The best way to look, I mean, I agree with him. It is really tough if you're not used to the New Japan schedule to kind of wrap your head around it. And it basically, the way that it works is you have big shows, and then you have road to shows between there. And then, you have tournaments. But when you're actually on the New Japan app, it is a little bit tougher because they just throw stuff up there, sometimes just totally randomly. Usually they'll have like the news section will be in reverse chronological order.
Yeah.
But what you can do is go to the New Japan site, NJPW1972.com, and there they have both the schedule, which is upcoming shows, and results, which is the previous shows. And you just look for the big shows, not the road to shows, but for instance, like Power Struggle or King of Pro Wrestling. King of Pro Wrestling was a great show, for example, that just happened since the G1. The Destruction Tour, they did Destruction in Kobe, Destruction in Kagoshima. Then they had the two tournaments that are going on as well, and they had like a couple of like tours through the U.S. So depending on how much you want to digest of New Japan, you can either watch all of that, which is a lot, or you can just watch the major shows like King of Pro Wrestling, Power Struggle, and the next major show is going to be Wrestle Kingdom. And
we got Tag League first, or going on this weekend.
But again, I'm saying like just if you want to watch the major shows, not the tournaments.
Yeah.
For example,
sure.
Even though there's a lot of storyline that happens there, part of the problem with New Japan is if you don't watch every single episode, you're going to miss some nuance because that's just how they run their shows, where you'll have, whether it's a little moment between two wrestlers or even like a quick promo after a match, just little things can set up whole feuds for months. And if you miss one show, you miss it. You know what I mean? Which is unfortunate that's how they do it.
If you missed King of Pro Wrestling, you missed all kinds of good stuff that happened. With Jericho coming back to challenge, you've got the return of Takahashi. So lots of stuff going on in there. That
wasn't King of Pro Wrestling, but yes, I know I know what you're saying. That was Power Struggle. That was what just happened.
I'm sorry, Power Struggle. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's all good. But so that's kind of the problem with with trying to keep up with New Japan is knowing which show is going to be valuable to watch if you
Case
only
in
have
point.
so much time. Right. And trying to keep up on which one to watch. And it's built for in Japan, you watch one promotion. Like typically they're not fans of multiple promotions. You watch one promotion, you watch everything that comes out with that promotion, and there's enough content for you to stay constantly entertained. The downside of that is if you're in America and you're trying to keep up with multiple things at once and you're trying to keep up with everything that's going on in Japan is very time consuming.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as like, if you just want to watch a good New Japan show, King of Pro Wrestling was really good. Power Struggle was really good. Surprisingly good. Maybe check out a couple of the tournament matches. The junior tag league was really entertaining with what happened with Ospreay and El Fantasmo and that. So there are a couple things to watch, but with New Japan, if you miss like a couple of road twos, don't stress it, because even if you do miss, an event, Kevin Kelly's been really good at summarizing the last like month or so of storyline at the start of an important match. Well, this all started because this happened, and then he didn't like that, and so he said this, and that's where we are today. He's really good at that. So you can pick up just by watching the major shows, and again, you can go to their website and check out when those major shows are coming up. If you only want to stick to the major shows, which is probably the easiest way to watch New Japan, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Here's what I'll tell you. Their WrestleMania is Wrestle Kingdom that starts. And for the first time, it's going to be a 2-day affair. I've booked time off for this in advance just to make sure, because I don't remember ever watching a pay-per-view that was 2 days. But the amount of stuff that's going into this, I mean, I guess you could count takeovers and whatever. But January 4th, January 5th, 2-day Wrestle Kingdom. It is their WrestleMania-esque event. And believe me, a week or two leading up to, we're about 6 weeks out from there. So a week or so leading up to that, there's going to be all kinds of explainer videos and promos and all kinds of stuff that either Kevin Kelly or somebody's going to put together to catch you up on all of the storyline going into, because there's a lot. Everything circling around the both the Intercontinental and the IWGP Heavyweight Championship is madness right now. And a lot of that is the results that came out of the G1 and what's transpired since. But that's the big one. That's the one you want to make sure that you're prepared for. The other intermediary stuff is kind of ebbs and flows, as Ian was describing. But January 4th, January 5th, make sure you've got that on your calendars, and you flip your sleep schedule upside down so that you can stay up all night and watch both of those nights. But yeah, just be prepared for that one.
Amen.
All right. Thank you very much, Will. And we will certainly keep you up to date on all the New Japan happenings right here on the show, as we always do between now and then. Next up, Patrick asked if you guys had to recast oh boy, this could be fun. If you guys had to recast the original Star Wars trilogy with current wrestlers, which wrestlers would you cast? My head just exploded.
Can I take a shot at this?
Yeah, I mean, go for it, because my gears are turning right now. And for the record, I didn't look at these before we read them. It's kind of half the fun.
Okay, Chad Gable as Luke.
Okay.
Eli Drake is Han. Leia is, Alexa Bliss.
I was going to say Alexa Bliss.
She's little and she's little and she's snarky.
Yeah.
Chewbacca, Babatunde. He's the tall.
Killian Dane.
First tall guy. No, he has to be tall, not just hairy. Come on now.
All right.
I went Babatunde. You can put hair on him. How about you skin Killian Dane and put his skin on Babatunde?
Don't skin him, shave him. Oh God, they don't skin people in Star Wars unless you're a tauntaun. But
I was gonna say,
skin him. It's November now. We don't talk about skinning people anymore. You horror freak.
What? Well, you can't shave him. They haven't made a razor strong enough to shave that man.
That's true.
Yeah.
The Weed Whacker. Bring the Weed Whacker back.
Bring the Weed Whacker. Dude. Oh, that reminded that CZW Weed Whacker. Did you see that? Oh God, that still makes me cringe.
Just across his chest.
Poor Killian Dane. Vader. Who plays Vader? Okay. Oh, no. I've got it. Okay, so all right, so I've got half of it. Okay. So as we know, Darth Vader was played by two people. right? You had David Prowse inside, and then you had James Earl Jones playing the voice. So David Prowse was picked to be that because of his imposing stature. He was a big, strong guy. He was a former bodybuilder, taller than everyone else on set. He was 6'4", but his voice was this light little reedy thing. If you've ever heard Star Wars actually be done live on set, he sounds like, "Oh, take me to your rebel base." It sounds like that. It's horrible. So you have to have a voice for Vader here. Yeah. So that you put Drew McIntyre in the suit because he walks like Vader, doesn't he? He's got that imposing scare.
The Terminator walk, yes.
The voice is obvious. Damian Priest.
Yes.
Bam. Bam.
Take me to your leader.
Oh, it's so easy. I find your lack of faith disturbing. Obviously, Vince McMahon has to play the Emperor. Obviously.
Oh, of course.
Obviously. Give in to your anger, pal. Come to the dark side. And I don't know. Arn Anderson as Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's got the beard.
I'll throw a Braun Strowman as a Chewbacca contender in there as well.
Yeah.
You know?
He does got to go. Rawr, rawr,
yeah.
And then I don't know. Drake Maverick is Yoda. Or Hornswoggle. Hornswoggle is Yoda.
Oh God. Okay.
All right, we're going off the rails now.
I love all those. We could keep going. That's fantastic. Who would so I'm thinking of like 3PO. I'm thinking of Ewoks. Hornswoggle would be an Ewok for obvious reasons.
Well, Hornswoggle would probably.
I'm not making little people jokes, but you know.
Well, no, not really. I mean, he could be like the Warwick Davis of the wrestling Star Wars, where he plays like multiple parts. He could play R2. He could play the Ewok and whatever, multiple parts, and then he can go play Willow in another movie.
Who is the Sarlacc pit?
Don't make me say it, Nick. Don't make me say it. Don't make me say it. No.
Do it.
No. Turn around and look at your wall.
Yeah, I know.
Jesus Christ. You say it, not me. I'm not getting myself in trouble for that. No. All right. So moving on. That's
yes. Thank you very much,
we've
Patrick.
Cast Star Wars.
There you go. Next up, Jacob. Even though CM Punk is only back for backstage, who are 3 superstars you would like to see him face, main roster or NXT? Also 3 from AEW. So what 3 superstars would we like to see CM Punk face, even though he's not going to wrestle on WWE again, just to be clear? That's not going to happen. Who would we like to see? So, people were joking that he was the one in the dog costume this week yesterday on SmackDown. I'm just like, no, he's not. Stop it.
That would be gold if he were. He did say he wanted to come back and only just a mask if he was ever going to wrestle again.
Yeah, I mean, you have Roman Reigns do a spear on the mascot and the head falls off and it's CM Punk under there.
Yeah. And it was clearly EC3 under that mask, by the way.
Of course it was.
Who 3 superstars I'd want to see him face? Well, he's already faced Samoa Joe before, but modern Joe with the promo stuff would be great. But but Joe's out injured right now.
I can only imagine the promos those 2 would have today. Just
right. Wow. Him and Daniel Bryan again. Modern Daniel Bryan versus modern CM Punk, just with all of the angst they both have, would be a lot of fun. Punk Nakamura. I want to see everyone versus Nakamura. I'm a
Punk Aleister Black.
Punk Aleister Black. Aleister Black could make him look like a joke though with his legit strikes though. I don't know. I would be curious to see it. I think you'd get lost because all the tattoos would just be hard to see what's actually happening. You know what I mean? You'd kind of lose. Get blurry vision. Yeah. Be like having a whole bunch of emojis thrown at the screen. What's happening?
Punk Andrade would be good.
Punk Andrade would be really good. Yeah. That would be really good.
I'm trying to think of similar stature, similar style.
Yeah. He has had good matches against bigger guys before, but I mean, really, I would be more excited to see him go to AEW. Just because of the promos. Him and Jericho alone. Just him and Jericho with the build to that would be amazing. Or him and Cody. They probably wouldn't be amazing matches, but the build and the promos would be where it's at.
I just can't imagine the size of the check Fox had to write to get him to come back and do
He said he was only
a goofy backstage show like
he said it was only going to be for a lot of money. So,
wow.
And apparently he got it.
AEW, we mentioned Cody and Jericho. Anybody else that sticks out that's maybe not like super top of the card? We'd be interested in a Sean Spears or something like that.
Him and Pac, or him and
Hangman Reigns.
Hangman wouldn't be a
Page.
bad match. I think that, but the problem is that Punk would just destroy Hangman on the mic, and charisma-wise, he's just got him destroyed. Hangman's not. He's not there to cut promos.
I think Pac could hang with him though.
I think Pac could. Yeah.
Yeah. So. That would be a fantastic series to see those two go at each other. Ooh, yeah. I'm getting the tinglies thinking about that. I didn't think I would, but thank you, Patrick. That's a.
Oh, him and.
I'm sorry, Jacob. That was Jacob's question.
Pentagon Jr.
Oh.
Fun. I mean, obviously the promos wouldn't really be there on Pentagon's side, but the match would be great. Probably a great work match.
Cero miedo.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Jacob. Next up, Dominic. Hey, guys, let's say you are part of WWE Creative and someone hands you a folder with 4 words written on it. Shorty G, fix it. What would you do?
I would start. First of all, I'd call him Chad Gable.
Yes.
I just stop calling him Shorty G for one thing. That whole thing
basketball
makes
gear,
me
like whatever the hell's going on.
I'm not even mad at the basketball gear. Like that's some John Cena stuff. Like it's just the. I don't know.
Is this their version of trying to take? No, it's not. I'm even answering my own questions. Like, how would I fix it? Like, if you go back to the Kurt Angle time from a couple of years ago,
you took the words out of my mouth.
And you did the whole story with Jason Jordan being like the long lost son of Kurt Angle and stuff like. I'm not saying make him his son, but make Kurt Angle like his Olympic wrestling coach or something along those lines, where he's in Chad Gable's corner. And you really got to have him win some matches and make it about the fact that he's getting coaching from the Olympian, the 2-time gold medal Olympic wrestler Kurt Angle, that is pushing him over all of these things and push him up to a title, legitimize him, strap him somehow. And, the American Alpha run was fantastic with him and Jason Jordan. Great tag team. And I think that was, but I mean, he never really got that time that Jason Jordan did. Yeah. Because of the whole, dad.
Well, in the way that Jason Jordan
lost dad thing.
Right. And part of that thing was like, isn't it funny? Kurt's son doesn't look anything like Kurt. I'll put it that way. You know what I mean? Like, that was part of the joke of it. Whereas Gable would have been the obvious choice for that because of just his lineage and style as much as anything. And I really wish Jason Jordan was still wrestling, because that guy was talented as hell, and my God, he was good, and he was getting over. But now in hindsight, being 2020, it's like Chad Gable should have gotten that spot because Jason Jordan got injured. Obviously, there's no way you could have predicted that. And that would have been a huge push for the guy. But even having him, despite that, pushing him as a Kurt Angle-like character where, he's kind of goofy, but he goes out there and insults the crowd, but just thinks he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I mean, honestly, we call out all the time that the WWE rehashes history, and sometimes that can be a good thing if it's done right. And if you take notes from history with how they got Kurt Angle over and do that with Chad Gable, he's got every skill set that Kurt had, every single one. The only thing he doesn't have is the height, and that's the only thing he doesn't have going for him. And in today's modern wrestling, I don't know if that's as much of a hindrance, because I would say that Kurt, relative to the size of the average wrestler back in the day, was the size that Gable is relative to the average wrestler now in WWE. Maybe he was a bit bigger, but
I don't know if the audience interaction is at the level that it was during that stuff with Kurt in the 98, 99, 2000 time frame.
That's a good point. Yeah. You might not get the same reaction.
Because that's what made Kurt's rise so meteoric. The absolute heel heat that he got from that crowd, the vitriol and hatred and the posters and the boos and all of that. It doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. I mean, one of the most and this is a quick aside. One of the most amazing things that I love to do is go back and watch stuff from 98 to 2000. And not because it's the Attitude Era. Don't get me wrong here. But if you go back and you just watch an episode of Raw or SmackDown, look at how many posters are in the crowd. Everybody's on their feet. Everybody's either cheering or booing. Nobody's just sitting there. There's not a lot of times where you see a crowd at a WWF event just sitting there doing nothing. And that's one of the things that really just stands out to me. So if you take, I don't know that would work in today's world if you did that with Gable. I mean, we see what happened with Corbin this week or last night on SmackDown, and he was getting some serious boos.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's go away heat. I feel like that's people just shitting on the segment and King Corbin altogether. It's not the kind of stuff you want.
Well, part of the thing that worked with Kurt was that he was like seemingly innocently oblivious to his own obnoxiousness, whereas Corbin revels in it. And that was one of the things that people liked kind of teasing Kurt was like, what, guys, what? I'm just trying to, I'm genuinely trying here. Like, I genuinely believe in myself. You know, it was a little bit of that, almost that Bo Leave kind of thing that they couldn't get to work either. But I think that Chad Gable could absolutely murder at that. And he's definitely got the wrestling chops to back it up, which was the whole thing with Kurt, was that you wanted him to go out there and be a goofball and then fail, but he would go out there and beat the crap out of people because he could, because he was that good. And that really worked. And that worked for him as a face or a heel, and he went back and forth over the years. So, you know, that following that kind of mindset of being a guy who can be a little bit dorky, but then go out there and murder you in the ring, is something that, you know, and I think that's something they're kind of going for by naming him Shorty G, like giving him an air of goofiness, but then he's actually legitimately good in the ring. That's kind of what they're going for here. But the problem is because it has that mean-spirited edge to it, where you do feel like creative has some sort of bullying angle on calling him Shorty G, right? Where it's something that just amuses Vince. And it's, again, this culture of humiliation as humor. I think that ultimately that's what's not connecting with this particular way of going about it.
And if the goofy nebbishness doesn't get over or get annoying on its own, it's never going to work when you try to do the flip like they did with the ruthless aggression stuff with Kurt. So that ultimately led to the you suck thing being so huge. So all of that, I don't know if it would work in today's environment, 20 years removed from that. The WWE universe has changed with wrestling, and I don't know if there's an appetite for that kind of stuff anymore, because it's hard enough getting them to cheer in today's arena. So, well,
one thing's for sure: if you make someone a badass, people are going to like it. I mean, look how what they're doing in AEW. People get over. You make them look like a badass, they get more over, and just continue with that. You don't just stuff them down to the bottom of the card because you don't like that Rusev Day got over. Sorry, did I bring up something specific? So yeah, it's something where if you'd had him go out there and get bullied and then just murder people, he would have gotten over. You didn't have to change his name. You didn't have to change his outfit. Just have him go out there, take all this guff from everybody, and just go out there. All right, cool. You're going to call me short, all this stuff. Cool. Guess what? I'm Chad Mother effing Gable, and just have him murder dudes in the ring, and he would have gotten over.
Yep, I agree. There's a lot that you could do. You know what? I'm skeptically optimistic. I'll throw that one on there on the Shorty G thing. I think they can pull this off, but they've got to have him beating dudes. He's got to have signature wins over people.
And so far, he's been looking good. They build him as being a guy who can win, but the same with Ali too, where it's a stop-start thing. They have to just not stop. Yeah, don't stop.
Thank you very much, Dominic. That's a good one. Next up, Martin asks, what is your favorite wrestling trope, and which do you hate the most?
Ooh.
So also, when are we getting part 2 of Nick's fantasy booking? Soon, trademark.
Oh, God. I don't know if I have enough alcohol in my house.
Yeah, it's not just about me writing it. It's about Ian's mental state. And I have to give him, when did we do that? August? I have to give him a little more than 3 months to recover from the previous one.
Yeah, my right eye is still twitching slightly from the last time.
Let me say this. I'll put this out there. Before Royal Rumble.
Okay. All right. I'll brace myself.
I'm hoping for December, but we are moving the studio again in December in about 3-4 weeks. Again,
out of your mind.
bigger space. I've outgrown this place already, so we got to get a bigger space. There's so much going on in this place. But at the same time,
I'm still living in a cave in LA and you're getting a mansion. It's unbelievable.
for less
Unbelievable.
money.
Yeah. Favorite wrestling, least favorite wrestling trope. Well, so I'm gonna start with one that I hate, and it's one that continues to happen all the time, which is in the middle of the show, and this is very much WWE, but I've seen it happen other times, but usually they explain it. And in WWE, they rarely explain it. They did for a while, but they're haphazard with it. And that is, you're in the middle of something on the show, someone comes out to interrupt, and all of a sudden a match just happens.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's no explanation for it. It's just like, well, here's a match. And you're sitting there going, wait, what? What was your guys' plan to do on the show before this? Like,
Back
if
from
I was
commercial,
running,
now made official, we have a 6-man tag match. Why?
what? How? I mean, there was a time where it's like, you know what, where Teddy Long would come out and he would make the matches, right? You had an authority figure, a GM, and they would get it done. And it was like, okay, that's how the system works. It never quite, I know it's wrestling, it's not a real sports show, but it's amazing how much more seriously people can take a show if you just add certain little details of things that make it feel more like it lives in the real world. And if you really did have a sports show, you would have it where you knew what matches were happening, right? And if you were like, well, there may be some random matches that happen, then you would have space. Okay, well, it's not going to happen right now because we have to wait for that space on the show to come up, right? It can't just suddenly, well, we're going to do this now.
Yeah.
So that's a trope that tends to drive me absolutely insane. And it's a nitpick little thing, but every time it's like, oh, okay, I guess we're just gonna have a match now. All right. That's one that makes me nuts.
My most hated is easier to figure out. It's low blows.
Really?
I'm not a fan. No, not a fan.
You must have hated the Nakamura AJ Styles feud.
Yeah, we both did.
Well, I'm saying it didn't get me quite as badly as it must have you. You hate low blows.
It's just one of the things over the years. You guys, I'm sportsmanship. I like all that kind of stuff, right? So I just don't really want to see people. Look, fine, getting a cheap one in so rake of the eyes, something along those lines, fine. But if you just the low blow stuff, and it's the running gag of the referee was distracted or looking away, so I'm going to punch him in the balls so that I can get some kind of Healy advantage. There's other ways to do that, and I feel like low blows, it's childish.
That's a very specific one, Nick.
It is.
I thought of another one.
It's kind of childish. That's all.
I thought of another. Well, it's some point some of the time. Another one of mine. I hate someone popping up from underneath the ring and dragging someone to hell. I hate that. It's so stupid. You're hiding under the ring. It's not a doorway to hell. I know that's like kayfabe in WWE. It's a doorway to hell. That's dumb. That's stupid. That is just.
Can I
that's
ask
not even
an honest question?
Yes.
What if it really was
a doorway to hell?
What if in WWE 2K20 or a future game that was like a side part of the game, like you would have to go down and wrestle Satan,
like Mortal
like
Kombat, where you're like, if you do it a certain way, you go to a different stage, kind of thing.
Yes,
I would be so down for that.
That'd be.
I'd be so down for that. Just not in my damn wrestling matches.
And the only people down there are like Kane, the Fiend, the Boogeyman. You have to go through this gauntlet of superstars to get to Satan.
And it's just, I hate it.
Satan's down there in a pair of wrestling trunks or a singlet or something.
I hate it so much.
I know. It's ridiculous.
Favorite wrestling trope. I mean, it's kind of an obvious one, but it's the babyface coming back from adversity and winning. And the longer
underdog stories,
the longer and more painful their struggle and journey to get to that final win, the better it is. But I feel like that's probably my favorite because to me that is sort of the pinnacle of wrestling, is the babyface finally overcoming the heel's dastardly shit and winning. Is the basis of the whole thing, right? Like that's what people went to see. That was the catharsis, was the good guy finally triumphing over evil.
No better story than Daniel Bryan.
I don't know.
In my opinion,
modern era, yeah, but there's been tons and tons of really good ones.
it's okay.
Tons of good
Throw a
ones.
few out there. What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, you could talk about Hogan and Andre. You could talk about Stone Cold and Mr. McMahon, Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair. Tons of them, man. Like even Sami Zayn, another modern one, right? Kept losing in NXT, and when he finally won, it was such a big deal, and it was like, oh, that's so awesome! What a great moment, right? Those are the moments that you just kind of go. Terry Funk, when he gave his famous speech, right? Like there's all of those fantastic moments. That's what people go there for, is to have that moment of celebration when your good guy finally wins, when the right guy, when the right thing finally happens.
Yeah.
And
Kofi
it is
earlier this year,
Kofi. Yeah. Well, until they screwed the back end of that up.
I'm not talking about that part. I'm talking about the win at the win and the build up to WrestleMania. Coming out of Elimination Chamber all the way up to Mania. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That to me that's by far and away my favorite trope, and it's simply because that's the reason we watch this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That has great other storylines, but that's like those when we say like when wrestling is good, it's really good. That's the times it's really good, when they nail a storyline, when the right thing finally happens. It can even be like not even like a babyface win, but just when the right thing happens to cap a storyline. You just go, so good. Because it does.
We all OD'd on that at WrestleMania this year, and then it's kind of led to what we've had for the rest of the year, frankly.
maybe that's a you make a good case there, but I mean there is that release, right, of endorphins that happens with live sporting events that you don't necessarily always get with, say, like a TV show or something. You kind of get it, but like that rush of a live event and the live physicality, I think it's one of the reasons why people enjoy wrestling so much, is that when that happens, my God, that endorphin rush is so addictive and it's such a good feeling. People will come back. People will sit there and watch SmackDown and Raw week after week because once upon a time they got that from John Cena beating somebody, or Stone Cold beating up Mr. McMahon, or CM Punk beating John Cena in Chicago. Whatever it was, they got that fix one time, and they keep coming back and putting up with all this crap over and over and over again to get it again. So, yeah, that's my favorite trope.
Yeah, underdog babyface storyline for sure, and long-term storyline I would add to, just overcoming adversity infinitely to get to, and I think Daniel Bryan is probably my favorite example to call out. But all the gauntlet that he had to go through, the taking over Raw, Occupy Raw thing with the Yes Movement, and leading up to that three-way gauntlet that he had to go through at WrestleMania for the championship at 30.
Yeah,
brilliantly done. I would love to shake the hand of whoever put that whole Daniel Bryan run together. Just fantastic.
I don't know that it was entirely intentional, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you very much, Martin. Next up, we got Andy, Champ. By the way, quick aside, you guys are showing up. I see you cutting all those promos on each other, and I am a fan of it.
Yep, good
Keep
stuff.
it up. You got another week to 10 days. Keep it up. Let's go. I want to see it. I'm glad you guys are showing up. Thanks for doing all those. Next up, all right, question. Why is someone like Seth Rollins, with all the tools to be the best in the game, one of the worst faces in the game? He doesn't connect and really never had connected with the fans. Is this more of an indication that WWE can't book faces than Seth being an ass on Twitter?
Wait, hold on a second.
There's a lot of question in there.
Never connected with the fans? Seth absolutely had a period there where he was massively over. Massively over. Those Burn It Downs were so loud. There was absolutely a period where they had a number one babyface in the palms of their hands. And I will agree with Champ that Seth has all the tools. He was given all the tools, and like everything's been falling off since. And part of it has been how he's been acting on Twitter, whether it was telling Ospreay that he's richer than him, or whether it was acting like a jerk about the Becky Lynch thing, or talking smack to fans, or whatever, towing the company line. all the things he's done on Twitter that were stupid.
Stay off Twitter.
Seriously. But I think that's a very small part. It's also how he's been booked. And I think that the largest part is that WWE, and I'm going to agree with him here, cannot book faces. They're terrible at booking faces. Either they have to make them like Hulk Hogan's Superman, like comic book Supermen, or they make them just like the dorkiest, dumbest, most like naive, ridiculous catchphrase spewing dorks. And sometimes they do a little bit of both, right? And it's mind numbing. It's mind blowing. I actually would argue that Seth's extracurricular stuff would not have affected him so badly if he was still being booked like a badass. And that was the thing. He went from, what were we just saying about Chad Gable? You book someone like a badass, people like badasses. Seth Rollins is not being booked like a badass right now. He's being booked like a dumb face who's just kind of walking a chump. Well, I guess I'm just going to survive and prevail. And then I'm going to burn it down.
Gee golly williker.
Gee golly willikers. Sure do love you guys here and wherever the heck I am. Yep. Well, I guess I'm going to go burn it down now, guys. Survive and prevail. Curb stomp. And it's not working for him. If you have him as like the even leading up to him versus Brock, where he was like the Dragon Slayer, like he did a couple of dumb things, but at the end of the day, he beat Brock, and he beat him again.
Was that because Brock? Did people love that Brock lost, or did they love that Seth won?
Probably a combination of both, because Seth was really over when he first beat him.
Yeah,
and
that was probably the height of the burn it down, excitement.
Yeah, I'd say like over the beginning of the summer, like people were really, really hyped on Seth. Even last year, oh my God, last year this time, remember how loud the burn it downs were?
Yeah.
Yep. Wasn't it last year at this time? I'm trying to remember if this was when he was. It was when he and Ambrose were teaming up before they split up and they went into that garbage heel angle, which is where things really started to take a turn. Anyway, so yeah, I think that it's partly Seth, but people have done worse and been, dumber in social media and still maintained their overness.
Yeah.
Chris Jericho. And, I think this is just an example of WWE once again not knowing how to book a cool babyface.
Yeah. Perfect. I have nothing else to add. That's fantastic.
There you
Thank
go.
you, champ. Next up, Esme Standin Bear. Hello, Podfathers. Did I show you guys the picture of what I got for my birthday? I don't remember if I did or not. I don't remember if I
showed me. You didn't. I don't
YouTube.
believe you showed YouTube. No.
All right. I have to show you guys real quick because she just said what she just said.
Oh God. Brace yourselves. It's
So I got this as some of you guys might not know fully, but I run Orbital Jigsaw, which is the host network of Busted Wide Open and many other podcasts that are out there. So I've been doing podcasting for almost 10 years now. And for my birthday this year, my lovely girlfriend got me this. And we all died. We love it.
He'll make you an offer
Fantastic.
you can't refuse. Tell him Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
Yeah. He'll wake up with a horse head in his bed.
Yeah.
Doesn't Conrad have copyright on that?
What, having a horse head in your bed?
No. Oh, God. Does he have a copyright on Podfather?
He might, actually.
Oh,
He
God.
might. Sorry, Nick. That one's taken.
DMCA takedown notice incoming, I guess. Well, you guys might get this. Good thing you tuned in live.
Yeah.
You might not get
We
to
love
see
you,
this
Conrad. Please don't screw
one.
us over.
Yeah, don't. It's a fun, loving gift from my girlfriend. It's not
Yeah.
intentional to come after you.
Live and let live, buddy.
I'll make you an offer you can't refuse. She says, hello, Podfathers. First, I want to say that listening to this podcast has encouraged me to support more local wrestling, which is
Yes.
surprisingly cheap to attend 98% of the time. Yes, it is.
True. Very true.
Thank you so much for opening my mind to other things besides WWE.
Dude, absolutely.
You're welcome.
Very welcome.
Love, what we
and
do. Love that we do that for folks.
support local wrestling.
Yes.
This-
Wherever you are, there is wrestling there, and
it's
you can
really
find it.
and it's a lot of times it's really fun to see your local wrestlers suddenly get really big, and then your boys all of a sudden are on major TV, and you're like, oh my god, I remember when.
A lot of
So-
these little bumpers that we have that we play at the beginning of the show from wrestlers are from mostly PWG, but local stuff that we would have there in LA before they really blew up, right?
Yeah.
And we would just walk up to them, buy a T-shirt when they hang out at the side of the ring,
Chat
and
with
say,
them, talk with them, hang out with
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
and just rap with them a little bit. It's
Yep.
fun. Now on to the question. She says, "What are some unfinished storylines and feuds that may have disappeared mysteriously that you wish had a proper ending?"
Who raised the briefcase? Who raised the briefcase? King of the Ring 99, I think, is when it was. Steve Austin gets to the top of the ladder, goes for the briefcase, and someone raised the briefcase. And they never said who.
I didn't remember that. Oh my God, you just totally jarred my memory.
Did I blow your mind?
I'd completely forgotten about that.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my
What?
God.
Who raised the damn briefcase?
What are unfinished storylines and feuds that may have disappeared mysteriously that we wish had a proper ending? Look, as terrible as it was, I would have liked to have seen a proper, had they done it properly, Seth and Dean. I would have liked to have seen, fallen out brothers. They drug out the whole Shield breakup thing a little bit too long, and then they tried to bring it, and they did bring it all back. But then Roman went off and did his thing, and Seth and Dean ended up being tag partners, but then Dean turned on him. The Dean turn on Seth was extremely well done. We praised that here on the show, the way that they did it, and especially when they did it on the night that Roman made his big announcement. So had they run that out and it didn't turn into gas masks and needles in the butt, I think that could have been. Look at what Moxley's doing now. Can you imagine if you had Seth
If they just let him do his
over
thing.
baby
Yeah.
face that he was 6 months ago versus the Moxley that we've got right now. The things that we now know Dean has come out and said on Jericho's podcast that he wanted to do with that character. That's one that I am still unsettled about, that is unfinished to me, that I wish it had a proper run.
Right.
Because they could have done some magic with those two.
Yeah, I would have loved to see the Nexus storyline play out better.
That's a good one. Yeah.
The Nexus
Before
one
CM Punk just exploded, right?
that was like the big one that everyone just kind of was like, really, guys? They bungled the end of the anonymous GM storyline, and it was like, it's Hornswoggle who's under the ring. We never found out who was Imposter Kane. We never found out who Adam Rose's bunny was. What else?
I'm
We never
certainly not losing any sleep over that.
We never found out who was behind GTV when it was obviously Goldust, but they just kind of were like, let it drop. We never found out what Shelton Benjamin was thinking about. There's so many drop storylines. There's so many drop storylines over the year. We never found out what was in Shane's briefcase that he was blackmailing Mr. McMahon with. What else? I could list off a ton of them. Like,
as much as it was loathed and as much as Cody hated the part, there was part of me that said they could have done something interesting.
Oh
with
God, you could have done so much with Stardust.
the Goldust Stardust thing.
Oh, what the fact
some
that
of the promos that he was cutting were pretty imaginative and some unique stuff in there.
The whole reason we had Cody and Dustin at all in, double or nothing.
Double or nothing.
A double or nothing. The whole reason we had Cody versus Dustin at double or nothing was to prove that they could draw that match, because that's why they didn't get that match at WrestleMania, is no one believed in WWE that could draw. They even had Dusty alive at one point. They could have had a whole angle with Cody and Dustin and Dusty, and they started that up. And they just didn't do anything with it, because they didn't think there was fan interest for it. And that's why Cody and Dustin were still pissed about that. And that's why they went ahead and
bring Stephen Amell in and have him screw around with Stardust for a segment.
And then we'll go have a 5-star match in AEW.
She also goes on to say, or storylines that had a clear and simple direction that swerved for no reason that you wish had stayed the course. This question is pertaining to any promotion. So, yeah, it's along those lines. Yeah. Yeah,
I think we covered that. Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Thank
you, Esme. That's a good one. I don't like to
right.
think about things like that because I've mostly pushed them to the back of my memory banks at this point because they're things that I get hung up on some things like that. If you guys haven't figured that out by now, there are things that I wish had seen the light of day that have not, including my own fantasy booking.
Cesaro was a Heyman guy for a second. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
Nothing happened with it. There's a ton of stuff where I literally could sit here and just start brainstorming all of the things where I'm like, why didn't you do anything with that? You started that, you didn't finish it. What are you doing? Just let it. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you, Esme. Thanks for all the support. Glad you're
Seriously.
finding some local wrestling. Good stuff. Great question. Next up, Billy has a two-parter, it looks like, here to close things out. He said, "Serious question time." Okay.
Okay. Serious hats. Serious hats.
Got to get for cereals. What if anything do other wrestling fans do that kind of makes you embarrassed to be a fellow fan? Guilt by association, I guess. He says personally he feels horrible and embarrassed when I pop on Facebook or Twitter and see the constant cynicism or racism, sexism, homophobia, and bigotry. I haven't seen it from the BWO Army or the Phenomenal Ones, but I see it out there and it sickens me greatly. Can't echo that anymore. Agree.
Yeah.
It's
we
the
actually
reason I stay off of Twitter in the wrestling context for the most part. It's the reason that we don't participate in a lot of the Twitter stuff. I'll post some things every now and then, but short of Ian calling out Jericho for having douchebag Trump Jr. whatever is on his podcast, that's about the only really things that we've done
I paid
on Twitter.
for that.
But there's not a lot positive that happens on Twitter, unfortunately. It is what it is. I do a lot of it I used to do a lot more for my tech job for that stuff, but
that's not wrestling fandom. You know,
No.
a lot of the people that came for me had nothing to do with wrestling whatsoever. That's just Twitter being
it was all
toxic.
politics. Yeah.
And politics are toxic these days too. And I think a lot of people mistook what I was saying as something that was a political stance, and it wasn't a political stance. But I'm not going to get. We're not a political show, and I'm not going to get into that, which could be construed as political here on the show. We're talking about wrestling and things that wrestling fans do that I can't stand. As you said, Billy, which is you're completely on. Is there's this like toxic fandom, and there's a possessiveness that they have about it. But this is the thing, is it's not just wrestling. Toxic fandom, I feel, is anywhere you see in intense fan cultures, whether it's Star Trek, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's Game of Thrones, whether it's Pokemon or whatever, you've got a certain element within any fandom where there's I have a hard time wrapping my head around it, but I want to say that it's almost an entitlement to their to how they love their particular culture. So if
it's the one I like, so it's obviously the best.
The only
and
thing that
screw
my
you
view,
if you don't like it.
Exactly. Yeah. So if it's not my way, it's just wrong. And that actually is something that's been exacerbated by social media and by 140 character culture, where there's no nuance. There can be no like, I kind of don't like this wrestler, or that wasn't their best moment. It's just, they're terrible, I hate them, bah! Right? It goes from zero, it's black and white, 0 to 60. One thing that I saw, I forget if it was on Wrestling Observer or where it was someone, or maybe it was PW Insider, someone was talking about how wrestling fans suck in general. And it was either Wade Keller or Dave Meltzer who came back and said, no, actually, by and large, wrestling fans are really cool people. But man, the ones that aren't are really loud and obnoxious. And that's the case if you go to the shows, if you go on social media, it's the noisy minority that really tend to ruin things, whether it's the one guy a few rows behind you at the show who just can't shut up and is screaming loud, obnoxious things, whether it's the person on Twitter who's just saying, like you said, has a whole misspelled rant, calling someone, some poor wrestler the N-word, whatever it is, right? that's the stuff that makes us insane. And it's one of the reasons why for our Facebook discussion group, we don't encourage derogatory language. We don't encourage, we say, no, mark swear words, try to keep swear words to a minimum even. We want to keep it like a rational, polite discourse, because that's really what we enjoy about it, is having a rational, polite discourse about wrestling. That's, we're fans of this as well. And our fandom doesn't come from some sort of base emotion. It comes from being able to enjoy it on all levels.
For the
both
love of the
emotionally
game
and mentally.
is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, but also being able to, we like to parse what we're seeing with our thoughts as opposed to just let it emotionally activate us. So it's, and obviously we're going to have to put up some sort of rules soon, because we've had some people question whether, what exactly are the rules? What are the boundaries? And we're going to put something up there soon to say, like, this is, along with the spoilers and everything else, but some rules in the Facebook discussion group, as far as code of conduct, because there is that element out there, and we don't want that to invade the Phenomenal Ones and invade the Facebook discussion group and the Discord server, or even YouTube, because we don't feel there's a, it's out there. We know it's out there, but there's just, if we can control where it is, then we're going to.
Yep.
So
Totally.
There's no place for it.
Also,
what chance? Screw what chance?
I still laugh at them. It still make me laugh.
Only for Stone Cold.
But it's time for them to die. Oh, totally. Yeah, nobody else needs to what chant anybody else except Stone Cold, because he's the only one that can do it properly with the right energy. So the actual question was, what do wrestling fans do that makes you kind of embarrassed to be a fellow fan? It's more recently, the one that's hit home for me is picking a side. And if you're a fan of wrestling, you're a fan of wrestling. Nobody's a fan of WWE. Nobody's a fan of AEW, and screw everything else. We're wrestling fans. We should be fans of our local promotions all the way up through the top things going on. And I don't like this, I think AEW is better and NXT sucks.
Right.
Why do you have to revel in the fact that we have both?
You can say I like AEW better and WWE's not my thing. You know what I mean? That I think is a much more mature response to it, and I think that level of maturity is something that should be more there in wrestling discourse. I actually saw Joey Ryan post a tweet today where he said that any kind of discourse that divides the wrestling community and pits one side against the other is not helping the industry. You should just be, looking to build up people in the industry, because that's the only way it's going to grow. Like, if you don't like something, don't watch it. Don't engage with it.
We even say things on here sometimes that I go back and listen to, and I go, oh god, like some of we talk down to Ring of Honor every now and then, and I'm just like, oh god, I've questioned whether we should have even said that, but we're just being real. Like, that's really what it comes out to. We're not even making derogatory, direct comments about any of the superstars or the company in general. It's just we're calling out and we're noticing that the attendance is down and things like that. So
sure.
I even questioned us doing some of that, because it doesn't do any good for the business. And it behooves us to have more companies. Competition is always a good thing for the consumer, and we are the consumers of wrestling products out there. It's great that we don't just have WWE everywhere. And the sooner people recognize that they're having both is a good thing.
Absolutely.
Imagine if all you had was Ford.
Look how on fire
everybody
NXT
only
has been.
drove Ford cars.
NXT was good before AEW. Now it's like amazing. Like, it really has helped it get better. And I can only hope that eventually that it's going to translate to the main roster, if they start feeling like they're in trouble. And here's the thing, Nick, and I know you feel the same way. I genuinely want the main roster to succeed and be good. And when just like and I know I said I wasn't going to talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Just like I hope that Jericho succeeds and does well, even though I don't agree with some of the things he does for his podcast. The same way I don't agree that WWE should be in Saudi Arabia, and I lose respect for them for going over there and taking that money. I lose respect for Jericho, choosing someone who I don't think should get a platform on his show, but who doesn't need that platform. But at the same time, I still am a fan of WWE and want them to be better. If people say, hey man, it's not my thing, I totally get it because I watch it every week, and trust me, like sometimes it is hard to watch. Sometimes it's not something that I want to watch, but at the same time, I want them to be better. I'm a fan of wrestling, all wrestling, and that's something that's a viewpoint that we both espouse on this show, Nick, and I really want to see get out there a lot more. And if people are stuck in the mindset of tribalism where it's like, no, it's my team versus the other team, and there can be no middle ground, and I can't see the other side, that's part of a general malaise.
Yeah.
With particularly American society these days, but also society in general. I don't want to get too deep and too heavy here, but like that's something that I think culturally we can shift just by trying to have rational discourse and seeing the side of other people, seeing through other people's eyes, as opposed to just being stuck in our own worldview. So,
yeah. It's what's my golden rule?
I don't know.
You guys know
it
by
your
now.
golden, what is
Don't
it?
be a dick.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm serious. It works.
I broke that like twice today on the show.
Yeah.
To you.
Seriously, ask yourself before you hit submit on that tweet or that Facebook post, are you being a dick? Don't be a dick. That's really, it's just for anything. You know, when you walk past somebody or you're going to say something to somebody, am I being a dick? Don't be a dick. Life is so much simpler that way.
Right. You know, I think that it's, yeah. Okay. I'll leave it at that. That's a good golden rule.
Yeah. Billy asked one more thing. Not so serious question time.
What good. We were getting damn serious too.
Yeah. What wrestling personality, past or present, would you like to join you in a weekend at Bernie's situation?
Like he's dead?
Like, do we want a? Oh God, I'm scared to touch this one. So, Billy, if you're in the chat, help me clarify here.
All right, wait. Like,
what dead wrestler do Ian and I want to run around with for a weekend and pretend they're alive?
We got Ultimate Warrior's corpse between us. We're trying to make him shake the ropes.
Oh no!
We're like injecting him with steroids so that people don't think that anything's wrong or different. Oh my goodness, no. Yeah, this is. Oh no, I see. You can't do that because my mind just went in so many dark places.
Yeah.
So quickly. I just came off my horror month. I'm thinking of all these Benoit jokes that I really shouldn't make. You're like, no, please, Billy, if you're there, clarify before I say something I shouldn't.
Yeah. What wrestling personality?
Or is this like just a go and party with someone on a weekend?
If Ric Flair, easily.
Well, yeah. Oh, Jesus, we wouldn't survive.
No, that's. Do you
I'm
want to die?
I mean, I might. You wouldn't.
I wouldn't what?
You wouldn't survive.
Oh no, I would not survive.
Yeah,
I can't make it through a night at your bar.
I know. You can't keep up with me at my bar, let alone with Ric Flair.
Yeah. Woo!
Yeah.
I don't know. Who do we want to party with? Mine would be Rick. Like if I'm going out.
Yeah.
He said, "Edit. They don't have to be dead." Okay.
Okay.
Woo!
Right.
Okay.
All right.
I didn't know if we were going to be like puppeteering somebody around.
That would really suck if it was Andre. Oh man.
As we said, party with Big Papa Pump. No, he would just try and.
Oh God, no.
No.
Oh no.
I would end up in chainmail and doing math, and it's not fun.
Oh no. Yeah, there'd be way too many steroids being taken. Way too many anabolic steroids and human growth hormones and like you said, like he wouldn't tip because he couldn't do the math.
Oh,
and yeah, no. Oh, Big Papa Pump would be a very, very scary, scary, scary weekend. Also, I mean, that guy doesn't apply. Like, bro code does not apply to that guy.
No.
He'd be the worst wingman ever.
Yeah.
He says so in every one of his promos. He's gonna steal your girl. He says so. I'm not going anywhere with Big Papa Pump.
What wrestling personality, past or present, would you like to join you for a weekend party?
See, even Flair scares me. Flair scares me.
Flair was backstage 3 weeks ago with Post Malone doing shots.
Of course, because he's Ric Flair.
Woo!
I mean, it definitely would be a weekend you'd never forget. I'll give you that.
I don't know if I'd survive it, much less forget it. I'd have to go in going, having all my affairs in order.
Piper, maybe? Piper would be a wild weekend.
Oh,
that'd be crazy. All him smashing beer bottles on his head. Another one where you might go to jail if you have a weekend with Piper.
Yeah. Jesus.
I've heard Undertaker's pretty cool to go out with. I've heard he's like one of those dudes that takes care of his boys when you go out party with him.
You know what I'll say? I've seen some of the episodes of Ride Along with Braun Strowman, and I'll say, for my markdom aside, he seems like a really fun dude because all he wants to do is like go to Wendy's and order $100 worth of food.
Eat meat and shoot guns.
And yeah, exactly. And then he said he has an app of some sort where he takes dumps and he puts pins in the map of everywhere he's taking. Like that 12-year-old humor of mine. Plus he's a Carolina boy, and he and I would just rap and get along fine. I think it'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, eating fast food and doing 12-year-old shit like putting pins on a map of where you've pooped. That resonates with me so much.
Yes. Incidentally, it's actually an app to show where sewer lines are clogged, and nothing to do with actually. He's not.
It's
pinning
a
anything.
Warning system for the city works to come in and prepare their pipelines.
He just pulls up the app where sewer lines have gotten clogged, and he's just like, "Those were all me." It's easy. He doesn't have to pin anything. He's just like, "I went to a Wendy's. I crapped out the last 100 burgers I ate, and look what happened."
Oh man.
You got sewer lines overflowing for 2-mile radius.
All right, I'll forego Ric Flair because that's the obvious choice. I'll say Braun Strowman. I'd love to hang out with Braun Strowman for a weekend. Shoot some guns, eat some fast food, pin on a map where you poop. That sounds awesome.
That sounds awful.
Oh, that sounds like a good time.
Jesus, you would. I don't know. I'd want to party with Okada, dude. That guy knows how to have a good time too.
I bet.
Sock in and out, baby. Sock in and out. So.
Oh man. Well, guys, thank you very much for being amazing patrons. Sending those questions
Nick,
in.
There's more. We had one more coming at the very last second from Josh Logan.
Oh, okay.
Josh Logan snuck one in at the very last second. He said, "Hey guys, can you recommend any must-see death matches?" I guess after watching that Kenny Omega and John Moxley match, got his appetite for blood up. So. Nick, I'm going to assume you have not seen a lot of death matches in your time.
Oh, yeah. I'd say anything with Nick Cage or Sanjay or anybody. Go watch that video I put up in Facebook of the medley of best of CZW from the early 2000s.
Yep.
You're not anything with light tubes and a weed eater.
Yeah, you called back on Hell of War from Lucha Underground a lot.
That is the absolute must-watch death match. By far.
Seto Miedo with Pentagon Jr. and Vampiro was a sick one from season 1.
The end of season 1, absolutely.
Right. These days, I think the best one that I've seen recently was from Big Japan Pro Wrestling. Last year, it was Takada Kodaka from Takada versus Kodaka, Sami Kodaka from last year. That was a really good one. Look for anything with Jun Kasai in it, really, too. Trying to think of other ones. I mean, you can always go back to, King of Deathmatch 95, Terry Funk and Cactus Jack. Trying to think. There's Necro Butcher was like my go-to guy for a while. Him and Tony Klein from King of the Deathmatch 2004 was really good. The Piranha Deathmatch, the Piranha Death Match was really great. I'm trying to remember the details of that one. Just Google Piranha Death Match, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Piranha Death Match.
I can't wait. That's right up my alley. I love that.
And then the guy who I've always kind of considered my king of the death match, and I mentioned him on the AEW show where we were talking about it. Like the guy who I thought was, I kind of feel is like, he's the guy that Moxley's taken a lot of his shit from. And that's Atsushi Onita.
Onita, you did bring him up. Yeah.
Him versus Hayabusa in the Exploding Cage match. Again, Google it. It's out there. Or just Google best Onita entrance. Go to YouTube, best Onita entrance, and you will see one of the greatest entrances of all time. That guy he just exudes cool. But he's also been in some of the most brutal death matches I've ever seen. But Onita Hayabusa is probably one of his best ones. And then, I can't forget ECW, Axel Rotten versus Ian Rotten Taipei death match. That's a really good one too. Yeah, and just look at Big Japan Pro Wrestling has a ton of great death matches. That's usually where I go for Japanese death matches. So, yeah, to answer your question, there's a whole bunch of material. Maybe we'll post some links in the Facebook discussion group as well to get you going there.
I think I'm excited that people have an appetite for this again 20 years later. You know, we haven't really seen a lot of it probably since the fall of CZW in the mid 2000s.
The problem is that it's really like it's hard to make these matches good. Like there's so much crap death matches out there that are just stunt shows and bloodbaths that when you get a good death match, you really see the difference. You go, oh, that's how they're supposed to be. And yeah, so I think one of the reasons why they did die was that there was just so much garbage wrestling, which is, just a bunch of people get a whole bunch of props and have a whole bunch of spots, as opposed to actually having some psychology or a story that they're telling. You know what I mean? And that's when it's gore for gore's sake, it's not a good match. It's not good wrestling. But if you're actually out there telling a story, it's the difference between torture porn and a horror movie, right?
Right.
So good horror movie and torture porn. It's a subtle difference, but it's there. It's
the difference between a horror movie and a Hostel. Yeah.
I would argue
Billy's in the chat right now trying to make me corpse, and it's working. I just had to let it out. He's saying that Strowman has a new phrase where this toilet is gonna get these turds.
It's the big clog.
It's the big clog.
Oh my God, that's good stuff.
Oh man! All right. Well, thank you, Josh, for sneaking that one in. Definitely.
It's too bad Braun Strowman's name begins with B. So are they going to change his name? They did Chad Gable dirty. Are they going to change Braun Strowman to Shitty B?
Oh God! All right. I'm sure. I hope he's listening. He'll get a kick.
And on that note,
yeah. I would say Google anything best moments of CZW throughout the 2000s. You'll find so many light tubes were broken in the 2000s in CDW. I don't know how many fluorescent light bulbs were put to waste, or I should say put to very good use in CZW. That the light tubes was always my weakness. A guy getting falcon arrowed off the top of a rider truck into a structure of light tube bundles is one of my that's Nick on a plate right there. That's just exactly what I want.
It reminded me actually locally they had a brutal one, PWG 11, Guerrilla Warfare, with Candice LeRae and Joey Ryan versus the Young Bucks. That's the one where Candice LeRae got the crimson mask because she got kicked in the face with a boot with thumbtacks sticking out the bottom.
Ooh.
So,
speaking of thumbtacks, when you see a bald guy wrestling and he's got his head's just covered with thumbtacks because they pinned into him. Yeah. That's good stuff.
Didn't CZW have like a didn't CZW have it was like a Cage of Death versus Ring of Honor? It was like CZW versus Ring of Honor, Cage of Death, something like that.
I don't remember. I'd have to go look it up.
I remember it being pretty nuts. Anyway, yeah.
I don't remember anything with Ring of Honor.
There's just too much in my noggin.
Well, patrons, thank you very much for always getting these questions in. They always make for a fun, lively show, and we love that we're doing this in a new patron mailbag series just for you guys and for everybody else to listen to out there, whether you're listening on a podcast app of your choice or right here on YouTube at youtube.com/bustedwideopen. Thanks for always keeping the chat lively as well. Thank you, Billy, for making me laugh like my inner 12-year-old just bubbled out. Thank you very much for that. If you all want to come in and join this, you got to get in on the Patreon. So patreon.com/BWO. Make sure you sign up for that, at least the $5 tier, to be able to get your questions in every single week, as well as get access to the show notes for every episode that we do, every other episode that we do, and bonus episodes at the $10 tier, sweet swag, all kinds of good stuff. Skype calls with myself and Sir Ian Dangerous. All kinds of good stuff at patreon.com/BWO. But thank you guys for always getting your questions in. It's the reason we have this show all together, or this series, the Patron Mailbag series. You can also head over to Facebook, find us over there, search for Busted Wide Open, like our page, and send us a join request to get into the group, where you'll find a link to our Discord server. It's the new up-and-coming wrestling community where we have live chats going all throughout the week for every wrestling show and promotion out there, as well as dedicated channels for live chat during every pay-per-view. So sort of watch-alongs, and we're hoping to evolve that as time goes and the Discord server grows. So thank you guys for jumping in there. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at BWO Podcast and streaming live right here on YouTube.com/BustedWideOpen every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern and every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, covering all promotions across the world of wrestling, the landscape of wrestling, as we always do. But my name is Nick Howell. You can find me on Twitter at DataCenterDude.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. You can find me on Twitter at Sir Ian Dangerous.
But by God!
Would somebody stop the damn match?
This show is part of the Orbital Jigsaw Network. For more episodes, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher Radio. For details and show notes from each episode, check us out, orbitaljigsaw.com.